I'm the War Master, Josh Barnett. I'm the youngest heavyweight UFC champion of all time. 10th King of Pancrase, the Metamoris heavyweight grappling champion. 2007 IBJJF world champion. 2018 catch wrestling super heavyweight world champion. Those are the biggest ones. Done a few things. We're in. I can even just like push, pull, right? Keep it standing. Wow. I get in on this. And we're going to go over, I don't think we went over this finish, but I'm going to add another finish to this because sometimes you're trying to turn a guy and you can't. I've got a secret for that. All right, look center. Now, sometimes you go to turn him down with this, and I'm trying to drop him to the floor, but he starts posting hard and fighting me. So post your hand down, right, and he won't go down, he won't go down, he won't go down. So try to get him to his knees. Now, if I still want to turn him over, first option is try to windshield wiper, circle, and pivot. But he might still circle with you. So we run into this problem. Can't turn him. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull and try to turn. Of course he's going to react, but then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run him over his far hip. So I'm turning, I'm trying to turn him. Kev won't let me turn him. So now I'm going to come up. I'm going to pick his shoulders up. I'm going to punch my hand over towards the cameraman's feet, and I'm going to run him over his hip. And you go ahead and score your pin. You all right? Yeah. All right. So I'm trying to turn Kevin, but we're getting into this. We're getting into this fight. And by the way, don't ever be here. You don't win here. Wrestling's not really done on the knees. There are very few occasions where you should be on your knees. This is not one of them. So we're in here. I'm trying to finish this. I need to be up at least and pivoting, trying to turn. Nope, not happening. Step up, pick him up, drive and run over that post. And you can go ahead and keep the head. You can put a rib sandwich on it if you want. Pick it back up the other way. We'll get into that sub later. Snap him down. You're trying to turn him. You can't turn him, can't turn him, can't turn him, can't turn him, because he's going to circle with you. Step up, pick his head up, punch directly away and across his far hip. Got it? Yep. 1, 2. You can go back and forth.
And what I saw him was I used to always get my knees were, my elbows were always bleeding. I said, Billy, my knees are up, my elbows are always bleeding. He said, Roy, a good wrestler, his knees never touch floor.
He's always on top, yeah. Always on top doing all the rides. Roy is a connection to British wrestling, let alone the Snake Pit, and being someone that was trained by Billy Riley.
I said, Billy, what do you think of judo? He said, he puts a jacket on, have a fight. He said, you take your jacket off, have a fight.
British wrestling has really suffered over the years, over the decades. And someone like Roy is a rare find as having like a legitimate, serious wrestling coach who has done catch wrestling, he's done pro wrestling, he's done amateur wrestling and coached amateur wrestling and brought amateur wrestling to students that competed at the highest levels for England.
He was like a bit of a father figure, wasn't he?
He was a father figure. Well, my mother and father broke up when I was 11-year-old, and Billy was like a father to me. He could be a lot of good advice, really.
It seems to be a common theme with most
Well, a lot of kids were half trained. They come to me today and thank me for what I've done for them, and I put them on the right path.
Yeah. And I don't think you always even know you're doing it, do you?
No, I don't.
You don't, not necessarily.
All I'm doing is,
credit, but
there's nothing clever about what I'm doing with wrestling. All I'm doing is passing on catch wrestling as it was taught to me.
Do you find, Josh, that you're kind of maybe, not deliberately, but a father figure to some of the guys you coach now?
Yeah, I'll get messages on Father's Day from my athletes. You know, I've got some of my students here listed. Baszler and Hideki, I've trained him, as well as Miyato has trained Hideki, and Billy trained Hideki, and you know, he's a top level professional wrestler over in Japan. I've got Shayna Baszler, she's doing pro wrestling in America for the WWE, but she was a top 10 bantamweight women's MMA fighter for nearly her whole career. And we keep that alive today.
Hello.
Howdy, Roy. Glad to see you.
Nice seeing you.
You too.
You're looking good.
Thank you. This is a chancery. So old folk style collegiate wrestling rules say, oh, no chanceries. They just mean naked on the neck. That's why in folk style wrestling, you still have to have an arm. It comes from old like gentleman's catch. Right? Also, no wrist locks in the old rule book. We're not talking about these. Talking about these. Anyways, first finish. Snap the head, capture the chin. Punch. Step. We can step and turn and drop. The other option you have is pull them to the floor, step back with my feet. Just take long steps backwards, starting with the leg on the same side as the head. Step back from here. I can pivot, turn, and take him over. Or he doesn't want to let me pivot him. I can drive, pick him up, and drive. We end up in the same position. But we're going over the finish right now. Chin. Get him to his back. Now, once he's to his back, we go chest to chest. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to lay our ribs onto his face. Here. I'll take some pressure off. Okay, I'm going to put all of my weight onto my opponent's face. Why? It hurts, but also it pins him to the floor, but it pins him to the floor with his chin completely touching his shoulder as far as it'll go turned, in this case, to Kevin's right hand, his right shoulder. The 10 spot, as Wade would call it. I keep it completely pinned there so that when I switch my hips back, I twist and pick it up. And there's my neck lock. If I can get his chin to the 10 spot right away, then I'll just circle my hips in, tight into the neck, and pick it up and twist. But the neck, the chin, has to be all the way to the shoulder. And where you'll fail is you'll think it's far, but it ain't far enough. And that's just very, very common. If in transition of throwing them, one, you just scored a pin on Saturday, so match is over. Or in freestyle or Greco. But if it's submission wrestling, I can lay my hips or my ribs onto his face. Here, heavy, 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 heavy. Circle, switch back, and there's my finish. Put your ribs completely on his face. Turn now. Once his head is completely turned, now come back all the way onto this hip. Turn, turn, turn. Put your hip on the floor. This. And switch. Good. Now pick his head up. That's it. More like that. So I get to here. See, the closer I get to your hip, the more I start turning you. And if we're doing it live, as I'm pulling you down, as I get close to this, I'm going to drop the knee right away. Good. Now, I want to twist this, but your chin's here. I'm just going to lay all my ribs weight onto your face. Now, I come back. Yeah.